Right. Okay, thank you. So good afternoon or early evening, everyone. Mayor, welcome back after the recess. I hope you've all had a pleasant summer. The weather's not been kind, but I hope you all managed to find things to do. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please raise their hand in person if sat in the chamber, or use the remote raise hand function on your device. When invited to address by myself, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be both seen and heard when actively participating. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. And so please could I welcome all committee and non-committee elected members, cabinet members, our officers, and also anyone watching the live meeting broadcast, and our this evening one and only registered speaker. Moving on to the business of the meeting then, apologies for absence, please. Mark.
Hi, Chair. Hi, Committee. Just to let you know, I've had so far apologies from Councillor Wilson and Councillor Cowp.
Are there any other apologies for absence that anyone knows about? Is Helen with us? Councillor, what's that? Yeah, Councillor Payne may be late. She has a family medical thing to deal with. Moving on then, declarations of interest and the nature of such interests, if anyone has any interests that they need to declare on this matter. There are none. In that case, we move on to the planning application itself. So Rob, if you would like to introduce it, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Could I have my slides up, please? Okie dokie. Sorry, next slide, please. We can just go into the first one. Right, lovely. The application site consists of circa 1.1 hectare of brownfield land located at the junction of Ford and Millennium, Hood Road and Neptune Road, as shown on the plan before you. The site outlined in red there. The site is currently vacant and predominantly comprises a mix of hard-standing and overgrown grass scrub. The site is enclosed by metal fencing and is accessed from Ford and Millennium by a T-junction from the south, which also serves Uscall, Gymraeg, St Sandbrook Barrack, apologies for the pronunciation, located adjacent to the southwest of the site. The wider context of the site is characterised by a mix of residential and commercial land uses. Immediately to the north of the site is Junction House, a residential apartment block, and the Goods Sheds. To the northeast is the Premier Inn Hotel. To the southeast on Neptune Way, a residential apartment block with retail units at ground floor. Whilst to the southwest is the primary school, and to the south is the superstore. Okay, next slide, please. So this slide shows the view towards the site from the southeastern side of the junction at Ford and Millennium, Hood Road and Neptune Road. It's probably the most visible site on the confluence of those roads. To the left-hand side, you can see the primary school, whilst the Goods Sheds and Junction House are visible to the right of the picture there. The proposed main pedestrian access would be from the junction, which you can see just in front of the Goods Sheds there, behind the controlled traffic crossing. Next slide, please. This shows the site is viewed from Hood Road, with the proposed service entrance to the right-hand side of the picture, and the Goods Sheds and Junction House again to the right-hand side. Also shows the existing grass cover, as members who were lucky enough to come on the very wet site visit earlier could see as well, with areas of tar standing behind that grassland. Next slide, please. So this view is taken from Ford Millennium, adjacent to the school from the southwest, and shows the existing context and backdrop of the site, inclusive of the chimney of the pump house, Junction House and the Premier Inn. These context shots are useful in demonstrating that although there is a degree of variation in materials in its context, the predominant finish of the of buildings in the area is red brick. In policy terms, the site is located within the settlement boundary of Barry as defined by the adopted local development plan and the proposals map. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so this is a full application submitted by the partnership of Cardiff and Dale College and the Welsh Education Partnership, also known as WEPCO, for a new learning campus for a total of circa 1,029 students with 62% full-time equivalent, with a suggested maximum of circa 855 on the site at any time. There would be a full-time equivalent of 79 staff. The proposed college would offer a range of courses which would include hair and beauty and hospitality and catering, both of which are publicly accessible elements at ground floor, inclusive of salons, would be accessed directly off Ford and Millennium, and a restaurant on facing Hood Road. Other courses available at the site would include, but not be limited to, care and independent living skills, art and design, and ICT facilities. The proposals form part of a wider strategy for the Cardiff and Dale College, including the relocation of facilities away from the Colcott Road campus site that is currently subject to an outline planning application for a redevelopment for 140 dwellings. That application is under consideration by officers currently. It's understood that the intention is for construction to begin at the site at the earliest possible convenience and to be operational by autumn 2026. Okay, next slide, please. As you can see on the slide before you, the proposals would provide a three-storey L-shaped building situated to the eastern end of the site, providing an active frontage with Hood Road and Ford and Millennium, which is where this particular perspective view is taken from, similar to the very first photograph I showed. The building would be commensurate in height with the Junction House building to the north, albeit circa 70 centimetres taller. The slide before you shows a perspective view, as I just mentioned, from the junction of Hood Road, Ford and Millennium and Neptune Road. The officer's report provides a full and detailed breakdown of the consideration of all salient matters, including ecology, contamination, the position of a water main within the site, which consultees have been consulted upon and have raised no significant objections, subject to suitable conditions being attached to any consent granted. I'll just run through a few of the very salient issues first. So during the course of the application, officers have negotiated a revised material palette with the applicant, originally being a grey brick, but now being a predominant red brick finish to match the predominant material within the vicinity, as I noted previously. Secondary materials within the building would include glass curtain screening and anthracite cladding, but combined with recesses and fenestration detailing, as you can see on the elevation before you, would provide interest to this highly prominent building. Officers have also sought to secure a public art strategy that would provide art on the most prominent southeastern corner of the building with a view of providing visual interest to this aspect. Noting the commensurate height with neighbouring development, the design of the building, coupled with further control over the materials and provision of public arts, considered the proposals would introduce a high quality and interesting building in this prominent location. I know a couple of members earlier asked about impact on neighbouring residents, so just touch on that briefly. It's noted the height of the building would be, it's noting the height, obviously the height of the building relative to neighbouring properties, but it would be set at least 26 metres from the southern elevation of Junction House to the north, with the building offset by a minimum of 14 metres from the boundary. Whilst it acknowledged that the building would be visible from these and other residential premises further away from Junction House, it would be viewed in the context of other similarly scaled buildings and adequately separated from them to ensure no unacceptable detriment in terms of outlook or overbearing. A noise assessment and lighting strategy have also been considered and found acceptable by the Council's shared regulatory services, which are considered to demonstrate that proposals would not cause undue detriment to neighbouring occupiers. Next slide, please. So just revisiting this slide again, just to discuss the access arrangements. The site would be accessed from a principal access adjacent to the new primary school to the west, with a secondary entrance only access from the east off Hood Road, which would provide for servicing vehicles to access from Hood Road, but then would exit through the Ford and Millennium junction there. The development would provide 93 car parking spaces, inclusive of 4 disabled bays, 10 of which would be EV charging bays, 2 of which would be the disabled bays, and 170 bicycle parking spaces within a shelter to the north of the site, which is marked C on the plan before you. The site is well located relative to public transport and sustainable transport measures, being circa 700 metres walking distance from Barry railway station, with bus stops nearby, including those on the road in front of the site. The submissions also detail that travel passes would be provided by the college, in addition to discounted bus travel and the provision of a rider service that would connect the site to other Cardiff and Dale campus sites. The council's highway section have assessed the proposals, including the submitted transport assessment, and have not raised objection to the proposals. Noting the aforementioned, the age of the significant number of students below driving age, the highly sustainable location, and the travel plan detailing how a modal shift would be sought, is considered that the site is suitably located and a relaxation below the required maximum within the parking standard should be supported. Furthermore, given the sustainable location and presence of the existing facilities, sustainable transport planning contributions have not been secured in this instance. Next slide, please. This slide shows the rear view of the building, inclusive of the proposed open space to the rear and entrance to the building from the car park, demonstrating, as per the previous slide, the provision of good public realm to the front and for students and staff to the rear, with further details of landscaping to be secured by condition. Just touching again, just with regard to 106 contributions, planning contributions not being sought for 106 with regard to this development, with regard to public art, sustainable transport and public open space. The reason being that a public art strategy has been submitted in support of the application with further detail, which is acceptable in principle, with further detail that will be required by condition, which would seek to integrate public art within the building itself, and the sustainable location as detailed previously, and the provision of good quality public realm, both in this instance, as on the slide before you, to the rear of the premises to serve students and staff, open space and atrium, open space to the east of the building and to the south, and also atrium areas within the building itself, which provide opportunities for kind of movement between use of classes and what have you within the building. As such, is considered the scheme has either demonstrated the proposals would be acceptable in these regards, or income provision is provided on site. So, in summary, and noting all of the aforementioned, it's considered the proposals will represent a high quality and suitably located form of development that would complement existing uses adjacent to the site, and as such, officers recommend approval of Planning Commission. Members are just advised that there is one matter arising, which was just tweaking the proposed approved plans condition, which was to remove reference to the construction environmental management plan within that, and to include, because that's subject of a separate condition required by NRW and shared regulatory services, and also including the drainage strategy for the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rob. As I said earlier, we have one speaker, Mr. Mark Roberts, who is from Cardiff and Dale College. Mr. Roberts, you will have 3 minutes from the moment you start speaking. Well, actually, when you turn your mic on, and then if you stay for any follow-up questions that people might have. Ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Chair. You will have seen from the papers this new campus is one of 2 that we're proposing to replace our existing Colcott Road campus. Whilst it's taken us some time, this is the delivery of the college's commitment when Barry College was merged with Coleg Llanhafren, that we would not allow the new college to become Cardiff-centric, and that we would invest in Barry and Vale of Glamorgan. Our new city centre campus in Cardiff was 45 million investment. The combined investment for these 2 campuses will be 101 million. The 2 campuses will look and feel very different. This campus at the waterfront will be very much a community college. the location making it far more visible and accessible than hidden away in the middle of a residential area in Colcott Road. It will provide not just full-time vocational courses for 16 to 19-year-olds, but real lifelong learning opportunities. So, for example, it'll be the Centre for Our Family Learning courses for primary school pupils and their parents, 14 to 16 pathways and junior apprenticeships for those youngsters in schools for whom a vocational route is more appropriate. Higher education courses, including access to higher education courses, such as access to nursing, that allows adults to enter higher education who have life skills but may not have succeeded in GCSEs and A-levels. Apprenticeships and part-time courses for employed adults wishing to upskill or change their career path. Adult numeracy, literacy and digital literacy courses. English for speakers of other languages, very important for our refugee and asylum seeker communities. And importantly, as part of the design, there is space specifically included for our neurodiverse students who have additional learning needs to give them opportunities to develop their independent living skills. And this will develop further our flagship intern programme we have with Dow. The campuses will be open Monday to Fridays, in the evenings, Saturdays and during half terms and holidays. As Rob mentioned, there will be a hair and beauty salon and there will be a bistro restaurant operated by our students so that they get real, not realistic work experience. So this investment isn't just in a building, but it's delivering opportunities, choices, skills to enable our community to either enter employment, progress further in employment, or enter further into learning. Chair, thank you for your time you've given me.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Are there any points of clarification from any members of the committee? Councillor Perry, I see your hand is up. It's a point of clarification.
Well, it's just a question, really. Here we are in a climate emergency, and we get told about the financial investment, but not about the environmental investment.
Councillor Perry, this isn't a point of clarification based on what Mr. Roberts has said.
I know, but it was really weak.
It's not. It's points of clarification. Councillor Perry, will you please stop talking when I'm talking?
Goodbye.
This is a point of clarification is based upon what the speaker has said. It's not raising new stuff at all. Thank you very much. Can you come off screen now then?
Oh, sorry, yes. I just thought it was very, very sad that what was not included.
No, it's not. Right, having gone through that, now, thank you for your time, Mr. Roberts. Can we now move on then to the debate, unless, Rob, you have something you want to say based on that? No, in that, I take it from your silence, there's nothing. In that case, Councillor Hodges, you have your hand up first.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I speak as not only a member of the Planning Committee, but also as the local member. So I'm delighted to see this in front of us at long last. Can I start by saying thank you for the site visit today? I know the site very well, but it was good for everyone to see it and see it within the context of the application we're discussing here. I think it's fair to say there's no surprises in the plans. It's been a long time coming, but I understand that it's reliant on both funding and also a number of partners working together. So I can see that and I accept that. I'm grateful to hear that if permission is granted, that we're looking to an autumn 26 opening. That's quite ambitious, I think, for a big scheme like this, but it's very, very welcome. It's a good sized site with very decent access. It's a good way forward for 21st century post-school education in the Vale Glamorgan. It will provide both jobs and training, as well as retaining current jobs that we have within the existing college here in Barry. It's very good for our residents and for the future. Parking, I believe, is adequate within the site. The public transport links are very good, certainly for a town our size, and the layout is both unsurprising but opens up a brownfield site to the town, so that's welcomed from me. I think it helps open up Barry Island through the waterfront to the goods sheds and further on to Barry High Street, and this is to be welcomed. It should also hopefully improve the development of the shop site units on Neptune Road. The numerous conditions, I believe, will enable a fast and attractive build that will serve Barry and the Vale for many years to come. I have one request. It's not part of the application, but I just hope it's something that our cabinet and also our officers heed in the future when this building is complete. I would hope that suitable signage, both for the college and for the goods sheds, would be provided. The goods sheds, whilst establishing businesses there, will lose potential visitors will lose sight of it because of the college and where it's situated. But I think that can be easily overcome with some decent signage. So I would welcome that in the future. So in short, while I don't want to curtail any debate, I am more than happy to move the officer's recommendation for acceptance of this scheme. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hodges. Taking hands in order, Councillor Ernest, you were next. Councillor Ernest.
Sorry, Councillor Ernest, your audio has gone off for some reason. Have you connected or disconnected your headphones, maybe?
No, it's still not working, Anthony. I don't know what you've done since it was working earlier.
Councillor Ernest, that might be worth, if you can't get it to work, just to leave the meeting briefly and rejoin. It might redo and keep your headphones in. That might sort out the audio problem. And obviously we can come back to your question then.
While we're waiting for Councillor Ernest to come back on, we'll move on. I think, Ian, Councillor Johnson, you were next hand up.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll provide everybody with a moment to put their earphones on. Just a second in the chamber as we wait for that to happen. Okay, great. Thank you. As with Councillor Hodges, I want to speak in favour of the plan before us, and I'm happy to second the proposal. Just as Councillor Hodges said, I'm a local councillor. I represent Buttrells, and this is in the street just opposite the site. It's obvious, of course, as something on the waterfront. There's a long history to the site. And I think this is the final part of the innovation area to be developed. We've waited for a long period of time for this development. As the public speaker stated earlier, which is something that shows the importance of the education sector now to the town and to the development of the waterfront. This is a very progressive feeling building. It's quite a prominent point on Ffordd y Millennium, which is now a main connection between the centre of Barry and South Barry and Barry Island. And so the fact that a building like this will be there, attracting people to the waterfront through the day and on the weekend, this will be a mechanism to regenerate the area and the waterfront, and hopefully people who come here to learn will also socialise in the surrounding buildings, either on Neptune Road or the Good Sheds, and the parts of the development which are part of the innovation site, which have also received investment from Welsh Government and the Council over the years to develop the site. It will be quite strange, I think, to see the site be different with a building on it, because it's been empty for quite a while. I do remember when there was the Barry Waterfront Festival, which took place on the site over summer, which came to an end almost 15 years ago, but I remember bands like The Automatic playing there when they were in the charts. Probably the first series of Gavin and Stacey happening more or less around the same time. I'm happy with the scheme. I was a little bit concerned at the beginning in relation to the height of it and the impact the flats in Junction House. I remember the conversation when this committee gave consent to Junction House. We were concerned at the time that this would limit other developments in relation to creating a commercial area in a place where residents lived continuously. So I'm pleased to see this has been designed in a way which won't prevent this from happening. I am happy with one of the conditions that we have, number 8, which relates to a transport plan. And this will be updated on an ongoing basis to make sure that the college and the council understand the needs around the number of people visiting the area. As a local councillor, one of the things which does concern me is if there's not sufficient room for cars, this may have an impact on some of the residential estates in the nearby area. Hopefully that won't be the case, because I think there's sufficient public transport, either via train, 4 trains an hour from Cardiff and 1 from Bridgend, or the buses every half an hour to the island. And the number 95, the new number 95, but of course the Morrison's buses are not so far from the site either. As I said, hopefully this will help, as Councillor Hodges stated, hopefully this will help to connect the island town centre and the Broad Street area. One thing that we talked about as a committee, which continues to be important, is the connection between Broad Street and the Hood Road tunnel and that area from the waterfront, which makes walking easier for people. And whilst I do support the plan before us, that's the only thing which continues to be missing, because this would make it easier to go from the waterfront to the High Street, Broad Street, shops and the train station, and for residents of that area to visit the waterfront. So it's something to consider outside of the boundaries of this plan, but as a local member, I'm very happy to support. Thank you.
Oops. Thank you, Councillor Johnson, and thank you for seconding Councillor Hodges' motion to approve. You still have hands up for people who wish to speak. Councillor Payne is the next hand up.
Hiya. Thank you, Chair. I welcome this proposal as someone who attended the original Barry College on the old site before it was developed. I welcome it. One of the questions, I don't actually like the dark nature of the build. That's my own personal thing. I don't like the black finish on the top. I don't like the flats on the waterfront. I think they're very, very dark. But my one thing was, and maybe this is for the college to answer as well, is looking at provision of childcare. So I noticed there are lots of wellbeing areas and stuff, but I wondered about, is there going to be a creche or some provision for young parents on site?
Well, officers will have the opportunity to reply later. Is there any other points you want to make? That was
No,
the
that's
question.
it, thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Champion, your hand is up next.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is to be welcomed. I don't know Barry that well, so but I'm sure the local councillors have already explained. My only concern, I think, is the urban design and the possibility of sort of hundreds of students crossing roads, and the roads are very much car-centric. And that whole area there, you've got Asda and the Premier Inn and everything, where you might want people to flow, and there's sort of traffic lights and crossings, and it could be better urban design, I think, in that whole area. But that's not for this planning application. I understand it's beyond the planning, but the transport strategy needs to look at the movements. That's what I'd say.
Thank you, Councillor Champion. Councillor Ernest, your hand. Are you now back with us and able to communicate? No, you're still silent.
I don't know if it's possible, Councillor Ernest, it might be worth you putting something in the chat, a question in the chat if you want us to relay it.
While we're waiting for Anthony to put the stuff in the chat, Councillor Perry, you now have your hand up.
Hi, yeah, in our climate and nature emergency, we are banning straws, busy recycling grass and trying to save the planet that way whilst throwing away buildings. So it's disappointing that we're going to lose yet more buildings in Barry to the bulldozer for more landfill and no regard of the carbon footprint or the footprint we're leaving on the environment in that regards. And it's a great shame that that wasn't mentioned at all in the presentation. It's just complete disregard for future generations. People, Charles and Ian have both mentioned the urban design and the lack of that link to Hood Road. And that should come first. Your infrastructure should always come first and your buildings follow your infrastructure. So this is coming the wrong way around. We've got that horrible shared footway at the front where we have people who are frail or with disabilities trying to share a footway with students aged 16 to 19 or 20 who are a little bit late for lectures, racing around on their bicycle on that shared space. That's not good urban design. That's not good planning. That was picked up way back in 2009 and ignored, and now we will reap the consequences in the future. So, yeah. Lots of positive education-wise. It's very positive. Whether it's the right location, well, it could be if it was linked properly, and it should be. Whether we need 2 new campuses and lose Colcott Road, and I think we talk too much about the money and how great it is to have £101 million invested in the Vale when we're actually losing the site at Colcott. So I'm on the fence on this on how to vote. If we do go to a vote, I'd probably be precautionary and vote against it in protest of the fact that there's no link agreed through to Hood Road. Never mind the lack of thought for carbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. There are no other hands up. I'm just checking to see whether Councillor Ernest has managed to communicate with us.
Disconnected, so hopefully he's going to reconnect shortly, Chair.
Just give him a few moments to see if he can reconnect. Moving on then.
Reconnected, Chair.
Oh, yeah, he has reconnected.
Ask him to come on.
Yeah, Councillor Ernest, can you see if you're able to come on?
Chair, I'm on there. Obviously, playing up a bit. Can you hear me?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah,
no.
we can now. Yeah, we can't see you again, but
Okay,
if you-
sorry. Right. Okay. Well, shall I just speak? Probably what I've said now is probably fairly superfluous, but I'll be pretty quick in what I say to help the meeting. Can I just firstly say I'm wholly in favour of the principle of the college. It's a very worthwhile event, and I think that the facilities that are going to be provided are going to be absolutely superb for the residents of Vale of Glamorgan. One thing, the area on which the college is to be built, I believe has been used as what I'll call an events arena over the years. I believe the vintage buses have displayed there. We've had various tourism events on the land, and it seems we are actually losing that plot of land to create an arena in that vicinity. And I do wonder whether that's been looked at by our tourism and events side, where there's an alternative location that they can go to. Next point, Chairman, parking for 855 and 79 staff. I think we've got to look at where the area which the students are coming from. It's going to be very wide. It's active travel is all very well, as we know, but I don't really think we can expect people to be cycling from the far side of the Vale, from areas like Peaston, Subarili, from Ogmore by Sea, cycling to Barry, particularly if they're in their 40s or 50s, maybe on adult courses. And I think realistically, we've got to provide more than adequate parking. We've only got 93 car spaces, and with 855 plus 79, which rounded is 930 or thereabouts in total, admittedly, many of whom will not be there at the same time, but nevertheless, I think the parking is deficient, and officers recognise that. Whether there's any other land which the college can acquire, lease or borrow, is something that they maybe want to look at, but I understand the nature of the urgency of building. And particularly so as we're going to have families, and the gentleman from the college pointed out quite rightly that they're going to be young families or maybe mothers and child attending. I hardly think they're going to be walking or cycling there. Inevitably, they're going to come either by public transport or by private car. So, yes, I support the application, but I think these are points that do need to be taken into account. And I apologise for the computer troubles. Thank you, Chairman.
thank you, Anthony. Councillor Perry, you have your hand up again. It's not normally that we allow second chance, but I will allow you a second chance if you can stick to the point and it's brief.
Yeah, just for Anthony's benefit, the active travel link that we've been talking about links the campus to the railway station, and people who arrive in Barry by train going to the destination would have a shorter walk considerably if the active travel infrastructure was built, and they could potentially cycle from the railway station to the college. So it's a big shame that that's not being built.
I can tell you it's actually under active consideration and discussion. Right, I think that's all the people who want to make a contribution. Rob, do you want to come back and address the issues raised, please?
Yeah, I certainly can do. Yeah, so just on that, in terms of the active travel route over land within the kind of boundary of the goods sheds. I believe, as Neil's just, the chairman, has just mentioned, discussion is ongoing with the landowner outside of this process with regeneration colleagues within the council, because I believe that land is council land on a long-term lease. I mean, regardless of that, I would say, although it would be preferable to serve desire lines to the station, walking distance from the station is only circa 600 or 700 metres along Hood Road. And so the acceptability of this application isn't contingent on the provision of that link. So it's something which is actively ongoing in terms of the provision of that. So just to clarify that, but yes, it's not within this application. In terms of there's no crash on the site that I can see. I've had a quick look through the floor plans. There's no crash provision on the site. In terms of the loss of the area as an arena, as far as I'm aware, that was a temporary measure to utilise council land and wasn't intended to be a permanent installation. And then with regard to the climate emergency, this application itself is just for the construction of the new building itself, which is supported by an energy statement detailing how renewable measures would be including solar panels and air source heat pumps. It also details how the building would achieve a BREEAM excellent rating and would benefit from passive and active design measures to make it as energy efficient as possible, which obviously then would also be controlled through the building control process. In terms of the provision or the lack of safe routes to and from the site, this application has been supported by a transport assessment and other measures that have been considered by our highway section, who consider that the location of development is safe. And yeah, basically that was it. You know, in terms of infrastructure, is well placed and well served by pedestrian infrastructure. The crossing, which was referred to as being potentially dangerous, is a fully signalised junction with crossings with signalised crossings on each point. You know, if it wasn't considered to be safe, then that is something where, you know, we most likely would have secured some kind of improvement on that area. So I hope that's assistance, of assistance to clarify some of those points. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. I've got hands going back up. Councillor Champion, Councillor Payne. If it's a very brief point, I will allow it, as I did with Councillor Perry. So Councillor Champion first.
I wasn't saying the crossings are necessarily unsafe because they are controlled. It's just that it's not desirable. There are probably...
Okay, thank you. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, really. Bit disappointed there's no childcare provision and no, facilities for a crash, because that's one of the things that enabled me to qualify in teaching. So a bit disappointed at that, really, because, we need to support our parents and young parents too.
Thank you for your point, Councillor Payne. In that case, I'm not sure whether Councillor Perry's was indicating dissent, but in case of that, I will put this to a vote. Then,
Sorry, Chair, can we have a recorded vote in that case then, please?
it will be a recorded vote. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, go for it. Vote is set up. So if you're in favour of officer's recommendation, you're voting yes or green. Yeah. There are, right, all 15 votes are in. We have 14 yes and 1 abstention. So that is supported. Thank you all for your time this early after the recess, and hopefully the weather will improve for the weekend. Good evening.